What if you could do what you're most passionate about, make a difference, and live an extraordinary life? Hi, I'm Melanie Benson. I'm America's leading small business optimizer. In this weekly podcast, I bring you guests and once in a while me to talk about what it's like to create a business that's optimized, where you're putting as little effort as you need to have extraordinary results, but you're doing it in a way that allows you to have a freedom-based lifestyle. And this week, our guest is someone I'm so excited to have join us. She is such an extraordinary person, living such an extraordinary life with such an extraordinary story. I'm always so blessed when we have people with such big visions and big ideas and big impacts that are coming into the world. And most importantly, she's living her purpose and her passion. So our guest today is Zhena Muzyka. And she's the founder of Zhena's Gypsy Tea, an inspirational speaker to women nationwide. And she's celebrated for her work in the fair trade business practices, which I love about her. Zhena was named a Country Living Women Entrepreneur honoree and has received the Enterprising Women of the Year Award and the Socially Responsible Business Award. You can find her at Zhena.tv, but she's also got a really fantastic book coming out. We'll talk about that in a minute. She's now an author that's going to be gracing the world with her beautiful story. So, hi, girl. How are you?
Hey, hi, Melanie. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And I have to tell you, my very first experience of Zhena was this beautiful tea ceremony that she performed. Now, first of all, I am a tea fanatic. I love tea. I love her gypsy teas. And she was at this event I was at and doing this tea ceremony, and I fell in love with her. I was like, God, she's so amazing. What a beautiful experience.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And yeah, so and I'm glad we've gotten to connect more and more lately and that you could come today. So let's talk about Zhena and tea and how you to the place of building a tea company.
Yeah, well, it was not expected. It was my hobby. I thought that writing would be my job, and I needed to live a little bit more for it to be my job. But I started the tea company to support my son. I was a single mom, and he needed an operation at 6 weeks old, and I didn't have health insurance.
Hmm.
It turns out that pre-existing conditions, birth defects are considered a pre-existing condition, or they were. So it was pretty devastating. It was a big wake-up call, and I found myself desperate and asking God what I could do. You know, those moments, I don't know if you've ever had one of those moments where you have no idea where you're going, like just none whatsoever.
Never.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, okay, God, show me. And I saw a gypsy tea party. And for me, my heritage is gypsy. I'd been working on a book about my gypsy grandmother from the Ukraine. And to tie gypsies in with my love of herbs and botanicals as medicine, I saw that that could happen. And I thought, oh my God, what a fun idea to have belly dancers and tea leaf readers and tea and fun flavors and make tea fun and engaging for people. And that's what I did, and that's what worked. So I was able to cover 4 operations for my son, and that was my main motivation. And then I discovered the tea workers in the tea fields needed an advocate. They were making $1.35 a day and had very high infant mortality rates, no health care, child care, maternity leave, education was not guaranteed. And once I discovered that, I decided that I was going to fix it. So I dedicated my life and my company to that.
I love that. So about making a difference while doing something that's your hobby that you figured out how to make a business around.
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
give us the lay of the land of the Gypsy Tea Company, where it's at now and what you're
Okay.
doing.
Yeah, I'm no longer in the day to day. I'm still a major shareholder, but there's been a CEO running it since January of 2011, and today it's June 2014, and about 2.5, almost 3 years. And that has been really a powerful experience. Stepping away from my baby has been very challenging, but also very uplifting. And it enabled me to write a book, and it enabled me to focus on my children. Like when I had my second child, Mia, on a Friday and was in a board meeting on a Tuesday and wasn't stopping and was a little bit out of control, I guess you could say. And so excited and ambitious and passionate about the mission, I forgot to actually be a role model of self-care as well. So I stepped away, and that was actually really good for me because it enabled me to parse out and figure out all the strategies, the things that worked, how I went from zero to millions of dollars in revenue in, a decade, in an industry that is so tied up. There's so many big companies that own all the shelf space nationwide. And, I was able, by the time I left as CEO, we were in almost 15,000 stores, which is unbelievable for a small startup. And I learned so many things that I started writing them down. And I have a series of books that's going to come from all the lessons I learned to help other women start businesses that heal and change the world.
I love it. I can't wait to read the book. Let's talk about the book that's emerged out of all this. And it's out this week, right?
Yeah, it's out this week. I wrote this book. It's called Life by the Cup. It's the first in a series. The next one's Business by the Cup, although this one has a ton of business in it. It's actually categorized as a business memoir, self-help book. If, of course, and then it also even has recipes in it. But this copy, I had all my goddess business mastermind girlfriends sign for me as a good luck charm. And you can see one of my friends is an artist. And yeah, I spent a lot of time writing this. It's got 17 chapters, short enough to sip, so you can sip them with your morning cup of tea or coffee. And it's meant to be uplifting, meditative, funny, entertaining. And it just got listed. CBS listed it best nonfiction beach read. USA Today listed it in the 30 hottest books of the year. And so it's getting some acclaim, and I'm so grateful because you never know when you put something out there.
Yeah, that's great. How did you pull that off, getting all this traction before it's literally as it's coming out of the gate, so to speak?
Mark Wahlberg helped.
Talk about that. I know I heard some juicy stuff about Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, his production company optioned it for a series. They felt that it was there's not a lot of stories about women making it in the business world. And so the synopsis is basically a California hippie, single mom, woman living off the grid, has a business idea, starts a business, ends up, in a man's world, ends up swimming with sharks and outwits them. And I don't think I outwitted anybody, but for them, they needed the irony for the pitch. But
Yeah.
I think I outwitted my own limitations and fears, really, at the end of the day.
Something tells me you out aligned them. You kind of went inside, got in alignment, got into flow, used your internal power to just kind of flow right past all the we might just say the traditional business maneuvers.
Well, I think too, for mission-driven women and for people who want to actually save the world, we are, there's so much wind in our sails because we have a mission to serve something bigger than ourselves. So it's not about ego. It's actually about our soul. It's about our heart. It's about others. And my book has a lot of how I found the mission of my company, how I was able to infuse that into the actual daily practices, best practices. And I created, I really created a trend within the tea industry. I was the first 100% fair trade tea company in the market. So although the tea company is still fairly small compared to a Unilever, I have to say we definitely positively impacted other bigger companies to feel pressure to do the right thing.
Yeah, I have to ask you because you're obviously you're allowing who you are to impact millions of people, not just from the book, but from you standing up for something that you believed in. At what moment, and I love that you have your tea in your cup right now.
I'm OCT.
I have my tea, but it's not in a cup. It's an ice version right now.
Yeah, I'm an obsessive compulsive tea drinker.
So, but you made a stand for something.
Yeah.
At what moment did you know that that was inside of you and that everything was going to really transform to go into that direction?
Yeah, I actually, in the book, so I had $6 the day I started the tea company.
Wow.
And I had taken a stand for my son. And it was probably one of the most empowered, it was up until that point in my life, the most empowered thing I'd ever done was to stand up against the medical world and system and get Sage his operation. and fight for him. I fought and fought and fought and fought for that operation, and I think that gave me a real ability to believe in myself as a powerful woman instead of as, potentially a victim of the system. And so when I knew I had to do something about the tea workers, I went to India, and this is all in the book, but I went to India to meet them, and I ended up going to India and Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, I saw tea fields where the women, I mean, the infant mortality rates were like 50%. So I was so mortified thinking that I had been living in poverty when their poverty made our poverty look like we were rich, which we are. And I realized in the land of opportunity, I was given an opportunity to get my son the care he needed. These women don't have a voice, so I was going to become their voice. And that is each step of the way. If I made it about myself, I got wrapped up. If I made it about others, I got inspired and more powerful. And when I got to the tea fields that first trip, and I realized that those women were losing babies, and I could have been one of them, but I was born in the US, I realized that God had put me on this track so that I could help and not be a part of the problem, but one definite key to the solution.
I love that. So you've had so many different evolutions as an entrepreneur. You've been CEO of this big company. You found yourself in, we might consider it more of a social entrepreneurism level, and now you're an author. What would you say has been one of your biggest challenges as an entrepreneur?
For me, it's well, I raised $8.5 million in venture capital. That was a huge challenge to raise funding to actually compete with the big boys. That was enormous. I spent almost 50 to 60 to 70% of my time sometimes raising capital to fund our growth and to compete. And so that was really challenging, especially when the stock market crashed. I had done a huge product launch with Whole Foods, and it's in the book. It's actually the chapter when the leaves, or without hot water, the leaves impart little.
I like that.
Everybody laughs at that because
That's
they
good.
go, oh, it's a cup of character. And the quote I used was, change your opinions, keep your principles, change your leaves, keep intact your roots, Victor Hugo. And it was about, this product launch where with tea, it grows out of the ground and you have to secure futures of it. So I secured futures of an entire garden's production for the year for a product launch with Whole Foods, and then the economy crashed and the product didn't sell. And we lost $2 million. And it was totally life-changing, and the economy kept going down and down and down. And I'll never forget, we had our biggest month of the history of the company, and then the next month was like as small as almost like the second year. And it was this contraction that sent chills through. I mean, people were trying to figure out if the world was ending and if they were going to be able to feed their kids. The last thing I could do was ask them to buy a $13 or $14 tin of tea, because it was so special and it was biodynamic. And so I had to make some tough decisions, and I had to go out and raise a disaster round of financing, if you will, to save the company. And, it was basically a fire sale, but I did that instead of closing the doors. And in turn, I lost a lot of my equity in the company, but I saved it, and it's alive today. So I would say that was, besides my son's health issues, which were the impetus for creating the company, that was definitely the hardest, toughest experience of my career.
I'm getting chills as you're talking, because I know so many people just getting sales in the door when things are stuck feels so overwhelming. And the fact that you had the courage and the gumption, if you will, to go out and like raise capital, it's like, it's bravo. I mean, you definitely got chutzpah, as they say.
Well, it's funny. My next book is Business by the Cup, and it's a spiritual handbook for business women. And I've been revisiting that situation in more detail for that book.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was so broke. I was in a hotel with a shared bathroom. And I remember taking a shower, and like the shower curtain kept blowing and touching my legs. And I'm like, this is like, what am I doing? I fell to, I was at the top, and now I'm at
I know. You're like, I used to be at the Four Seasons. What happened?
well, I never have.
Oh, okay.
Never stayed there. As a fair trade company, you do keep your costs down.
All right, I was at the Embassy Suites.
Yeah. The Hilton Garden Inn or something.
Right.
But, yeah, it was one of those moments where I was thinking, crap, what have I done? Like, what's going to happen now?
But don't you think those moments, because I've had them, and
Yeah.
some of our mutual friends, we've talked about this, and the as a matter of fact, I have this little thing written down. Where did I put it? Because it comes up all the time. Here we go. Everything that's happening is working together for my highest good. And that this is part of my necessary journey to become who I'm supposed to be, to make the impact I'm meant to make. And every one of those moments that we get, they either break us or make us stronger. Sounds like you've had quite a few of those make me stronger moments.
Well, and also I consider myself a business shaman at this point. You cannot help others and you can't heal others unless you yourself have been dismantled by something. Really. Because the story of the shaman is that when a village needs a new shaman, they actually pick the person, take them to a cave with all the evil spirits that exist, and the evil spirits pick the person's bones apart. I know this is kind of graphic and gross, but it's actually very powerful. They actually take all the off the bones, and they lay the shaman out, and then after they've eaten the shaman, I know this is gross, but then they let all the good spirits come in, compassion, love, guidance, everything, and they put the shaman back together bone by bone and remember the shaman. Get it? Remember. And then the shaman goes back out into the world, and every greed, avarice, negativity, fear, jealousy, all those things the shaman then has actually been destroyed by and rebuilt by grace and virtue. And so then that shaman can actually heal others. And I definitely feel like I've been through the ringer so many different ways and so many different times that now I'm a business shaman that I can help others.
And hopefully it wasn't like you were literally flayed and laid out on the sun, but it might have felt that way, right?
Yeah, I think at first when hardship hits, it hits you so hard sometimes you can't really gain perspective. So I have a chapter in the book called Couldn't See the Forest for the Teas. And it was, it's a cup of perspective and just how powerful perspective is. And then at the end of the chapters, I have little exercises that I have come to use myself that I created to help my readers get perspective quickly. So, if a reader's going through a hardship and they're like, oh my God, like the world's ending. Oh yeah, that chapter, they can actually go and do the exercise in the chapter to gain perspective. And it's really, really critical that we have these tools because, it's not like all of a sudden you're, an enlightened business person and you're perfect at the law of attraction and you never ever have a challenge again and lose it. I think it's a constant forgetting, remembering, building, and a really powerful experience of layering experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can relate.
Yeah.
I have my little toolbox. Every time I go back to something that takes me out of the game, you go back to the toolbox and you say, all right, what is the thing that moves me through this or allows me to be at peace with where I'm at? Because sometimes you don't get to move through it very fast. You kind of have to stay in it for a little while.
Exactly. Yeah. Grieving actually is a powerful process. We grieve every time we have a big transition in our life, and grieving for me, grieving leaving the tea company in the capacity I was in, took a while. Like that was a really big, didn't necessarily need to have control, but it was an identity thing.
That's what I was going to say. It's almost like you had to re-identify yourself. Exactly. Like, what is my role going to be and how do I show up there?
Yeah, I went from selling tea to selling me, and I'm like, who the hell wants to hear what I have to say? I can sell tea. Like, tea has so much value, and it cures it helps fight cancer cells, and it helps you lose weight, and it helps your skin be beautiful. Like, who am I to go and try to be a teacher at this stage in the game? And then, all my mentors were like, it's your time. And my instincts and my intuition were like, it's your time. So I definitely am with you on that.
So,
Yes.
I think for some of us, there's like this pivotal moment, and it could be an aha, it could be like this game changing learning, something that you learn or you discover. And it's almost like the Red Seas part, or, all your neurons get rewired, and next thing you know, you like have this brand new perspective. Did you have one of those moments? And if you did, I'd love to know what it was and how you got there.
Yeah, I'm kind of having those every day right now.
You are the third person today that said that.
My evolution as a woman in business is shifting, because I am creating a new business with Zena TV, which is more, I'm figuring it out as I go, but it's got media that I'm working on, but it's also got a marketplace that it funds women's empowerment, and everything is focused on ending girls in being sexually trafficked. So Gloria Steinem endorsed my book, and I've been tasked spiritually now to give voice to what's happening in a lot of these instances. So I've been curating products and having custom products made, and they're all benefiting. One product is a tea strainer. It takes a whole week to make this tea strainer. I designed it not knowing what it would take to make one by the New Art tribe in Kathmandu, but the profits from it go to the Mothers Society, and it's mothers who are being educated by this group of traveling educators on how to keep their daughters out of danger, because in poverty, when someone comes, so what happens is a man walks into the village in a suit, and he asks for your daughter's hand in marriage. And in Nepal, where it's very innocent, they don't have a lot of education, not a lot of TV, there's no TV, there's no media, there's no education. They go, oh, here's this handsome man coming to take my daughter's hand in marriage. And unfortunately, often they get kidnapped. And so I'm Zena TV, I'm working really hard to educate everybody on what's happening in the world through the products, and then taking the profits from the products and funding these things, these amazing programs. So I'm in completely new territory, and I feel like I'm being reshuffled constantly in order to hold the space to have enough courage to do all of this work, because it's a lot. And it costs a lot of money to put a big website up. It costs a lot of money to buy jewelry and tea strainers. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars in inventory. And, what if nobody comes? I'm not good at SEO yet. I haven't figured all that out yet. But I just know that these leaps of faith are what grow us and rebuild our lives in the next highest potential and vision of ourselves that we have. Because I do know one thing for sure is we're here to fulfill our potential, and that potential changes daily. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I feel like every moment right now I'm being reshuffled.
I know this is in your book, and you've got some great exercises in there, and I can't wait to read all of them. But I was, just listening to you talk right now, I was wondering, what is one thing you do to power yourself up besides drink tea?
Yeah, I meditate. My meditation practice is the most critical practice of my life. And I would say second only to that is focusing on gratitude, because I'm not naturally grateful. I mean, it's not like I'm much more of a realist, pessimist. I come from Ukrainian survivors of concentration camps who escaped Stalin. And I mean, I don't naturally come into the earth like Pollyanna and be like, oh, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful. So I actually have to have a practice of gratitude. And it starts with my daily meditation. I do Vipassana, which is how Buddha became enlightened. And I talk a lot about that in the book, and I actually have easier versions of Vipassana, my own Buddhist light version of it that I put in the book. And so I do Vipassana, which is insight meditation. And insight, so basically, every time something comes up, I'll say hunger, pain, you name it, and then you don't focus on it. You just let it go. So distraction, heartache, fear, curiosity, wonder, you just quietly name it as you're scanning the body for sensation. And what that does is it really puts you in the seat, the God seat is what I call it, where you're not judging things, you're naming them and letting them move through you instead of clinging to one. Because I feel that we spend most of our time either running toward pleasure or away from pain. So we're mostly in transit in our lives. And if we can just accept what is and have insight enough to have the perspective for that, we will be not only happier, but that leads to more grace and gratitude in our lives, because we're not trying to fix things all the time. I don't think we need to be fixed at all. We just need to be growing. That's all.
I like the distinction between you don't have to be fixed, you just have to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important piece because I know a lot of people sometimes get the mistaken belief that they're broken and they have to be fixed. And
yeah, I do every day. I am so hard on myself. My husband, that is definitely my toughest inner battle that I'm fighting, is that just how hard I am on myself. I mean, God, I don't need any enemies. I've got me. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I definitely, practicing compassion, self-compassion for myself, and then also practicing gratitude with the meditation. I would say that's my daily main calories. Like if I make sure that those are the main source of my practice every day, I'm fine.
Love it. So favorite mantra or quote that allows you to get re-inspired or powered up?
Well, I actually filled the book with my favorite mantras and quotes. Each chapter has a mantra of the cup that you say while you're drinking your morning cup of tea. Okay. I'll just open randomly to one and see what shows up.
You have to buy the book to get the rest of them, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, turn your face to the sun and the shadows fall behind you. That's a Maori proverb, and that's in the plucking the positive, because the tea workers pluck 16,000 individual plucks of tea a day, and they have to pluck only the top 2 leaves in a bud to create the tea that's high enough quality to sell on the market. And so they have to be focusing always on the best of the buds, on the best of the leaves. So I say if they're focusing on the rough leaves underneath the top 2 leaves in a bud, they'll pluck a rough plucking. It'll be a terrible cup of tea. So they have to constantly be focused on the newest, brightest buds of the highest quality. And that if we focus on those things, you get what you look for. So definitely.
So I'm excited about the book coming out. Is there anything else on the horizon? I know you shared some little nuggets as we've gone along.
The Mark Wahlberg production house, they're working on the show, and I'm on tour right now. I'm going to be in the Hamptons July 14th for the Simon Says. I'm doing the speaker series, which I'm very nervous. It's in an auditorium. Oh my God. Like I saw that and I was like, oh, wow, it's an auditorium, and I'm by myself that night. I'm the only performer reader. So that's mind blowing. The book series, the next book is Business by the Cup, and I've been working on that since I turned in the manuscript for Life by the Cup. And that one is a little bit more raw, a little bit more edgy, a little bit more, kind of like if we were all sitting around in a locker room and just laying it out like it is. It's a little bit more like that. So it's a little more juicy. I mean, it talks about my experiences in China, dealing with, I'm the only woman doing business there, and how, just basically a woman swimming with sharks. And so I'm really excited about it. My book tour on Zhena TV, the products, some of the products are up on Zhena TV, ZHENA.tv. Really excited about that. And yeah, I'm just writing and loving and educating and doing my best to create products that people love and that uplift and inspire them. So,
and living into your new identity.
Yeah, whatever that is. I have this, my mantra right now is, Dear God, how may I serve? And I'm just showing up wherever I have the instinct to serve and seeing what happens there. And that seems to be serving me really well because it takes a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah, you don't have to have some strategy or system and all this fancy
Yeah.
filters
There's
and.
there's strategy kind of in the realm of business, but then there's also like, if you don't know what you're doing quite yet, just show up. And
Yeah.
that's another chapter in the book that really can help.
See, I feel like I want to end today with asking you, like, if there was one thing from your years and years and years of growth and wisdom and evolution and shifting and ups and downs, like, if there was one thing you wanted somebody to know who might be in their own stage of evolution, maybe they're kind of nervous, they don't really know where they're at, they don't really, um, they don't know what it's all supposed to look like.
Yeah.
What's one little wisdom or nugget of advice you could leave us with today?
Um, with a mission to serve, you cannot fail. So if you're nervous about what you're doing, make sure that it is to serve others and to serve their needs and to uplift them and inspire them. And you'll find that you're taken care of. The end of my book actually has a chapter called Generosity Eliminates Fear. And it was about a big moment of fear, a cup of giving. Um, it's the quote from Albert Camus is real generosity toward the future lies in giving all to the present. So really ask yourself, is your business serving others? You know, is your desire to help others? Are you really living that every day? And you'll find that things just start to work out. With a mission to serve, you absolutely cannot fail. And
I love that.
yeah, I believe that that is actually on the Simon and Schuster, my publisher's website, as my motto, my MO, and I remind myself of that every day when I'm, shakily stepping into the unknown. Okay, as long as I'm serving, I cannot fail. I'll just show up.
Thanks for sharing that. That's such a powerful way to close out today. And I cannot wait to get my hands on the book. And I want to encourage you as you're listening in today to get this book. I know Zhena, and she's magical. She's inspiring. She's extraordinary. She has this beautiful gift to make you feel like you're the most special person on the planet. And I know that that's going to come through the book and spark your life in so many ways that you can't even possibly imagine. So the link's right here on the screen to get the book. And you can go to Zhena.tv to get the book as well, right?
Yeah, and watch videos of, different, like Katie Hendricks is interviewing me about the book, a bunch of different people, and there's a lot of great information. And the book trailer is just beautiful. Elevate Studios did it, and it's dedicated to my grandmother, who was a gypsy, and so it's got a lot of her spirit and energy in it. So yeah, definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's a beautiful site. I was just like so blown away when I saw it. I'm like, that is extraordinary. All right, thank you for bringing such a great book to the world, and thanks for tuning in today and listening. If you got sparked here today and there was a wisdom nugget or something that really clicked for you, I'd love to have you share it on the blog. If you're listening on iTunes on the podcast or one of the other podcasts, you can head over to melaniebensonstrick.com and join us on the blog. Be sure to chime in. I'm sure both Zhena and I'd love to know what you're excited about or what popped for you. So we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.